How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Bridge 4 Games, and welcome to the very first episode of Bridge 4 Battles. In this brand new series here on the channel, we're going to take two characters from any sort of media, be it movies, TV, anime, or books. We'll take those two characters, make a Pokemon team for them, and put them head-to-head in a Pokemon battle to see who is the true Pokemon Master. So for our inaugural episode, I'm going to have two characters that need no introduction. We have the captain of the Straw Hat Pirates, Monkey D. Luffy, from One Piece, going head-to-head against the Pokemon Master himself, Ash Ketchum. Now today's battle is going to be epic, but we have a lot more battles planned, and if you want to see all of them, make sure that you like the video and subscribe to the channel to make sure that you never miss any of our uploads. And if you can also share the video with any of your Pokemon friends, that'd be a huge help too. Alright, that being said, let's go ahead and get into the battle. Now both players are going to face each other in a 6 vs 6 Pokemon singles battle, and we're going to use Pokemon from every single generation. We're not going to limit it based on what Pokemon are available in any single game. So with that being said, let's go ahead and dive right into the teams, and we're going to start with Luffy's. As we look at Monkey D. Luffy's team, you may be wondering why certain Pokemon are here or what they have to do with the Straw Hats. Well, fear not. If you're wondering that, I made an entire short video covering all the choices and what they have to do with Luffy, and you can find that video in the description below, or in the card that you see at the top of the video right now. But anyways, getting into the Pokemon themselves, we do see that this is kind of just a generally good stuff team. There are a lot of very potent Pokemon, even if they don't have the most synergy with one another. Now this team wants to get up a hazard, causing damage to any Pokemon that switches in, and then either force the other Pokemon to switch out by putting it in a bad position, or just whirlwinding it away and making something else come out. Now the main kind of utility and pivot Pokemon on this team is going to be that Cobalion. Now it does have Stealth Rock to be able to set up that hazard, and then has Volt Switch and Taunt to kind of see what's going on and kind of respond the best way it can. Now it does have Close Combat as its one real attacking move, but the move is incredibly powerful, and anytime it's going to be doing super effective damage, the Expert Belt will guarantee that it's doing even more of that damage to whatever Pokemon is taking it. Now as far as the Pokemon that can force other Pokemon to switch out, for those we're looking at Lapras, Ho-Oh, and Solgaleo. Lapras has a pretty standard Rest Sleep Talk set here. It has Rocky Helmet, so any physical attackers that do damage to it are going to take damage themselves, and then any HP that it loses, it can gain right back with Rest, and then still keep attacking with Freeze Dry through that Sleep Talk. Now it also has Whirlwind, which basically is going to serve to remove any Pokemon it can't immediately deal with, and we see a similar strategy implemented here with Ho-Oh. Ho-Oh has Will-O-Wisp and Sacred Fire to just deal as many burns as possible, and it also has that Whirlwind in kind of a similar fashion to Lapras to just keep bringing Pokemon in over and over on those rocks. But it is worth noting that Whirlwind actually does do more than that. Ho-Oh isn't the fastest Pokemon by any means, but it can outspeed certain things, and if it finds itself in a battle where it can't really do any damage to the defending Pokemon, Whirlwind is actually a really great way to just deny that Pokemon a turn and bring a different Pokemon in. Now coming down to Solgaleo, it may have some kind of odd choices if you're not familiar with what some of these moves do. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, and that's going to be Teleport. Now, if your only experience with Teleport is trying to stop Aber from using it against you when you were trying to catch one back in Kanto, you may wonder why it's here. Well, the cool thing about Teleport is that it always goes last in a turn. So unlike moves like Volt Switch and U-Turn where the Pokemon goes out, a new Pokemon comes in and probably gets hit, Teleport will always guarantee that Solgaleo will be hit and then can switch out. This guarantees that the brand new Pokemon that comes in is going to come in completely unscathed. And on top of that, if Solgaleo takes a lot of hits, it can recover all of its HP thanks to that Morning Sun. Now for the rest of his offense, Luffy does have another stretchy boy just like himself, and that's Ditto. Now with its ability Imposter, it's going to be able to change into whatever Pokemon is on the field when it comes in, and thanks to that Choice Scarf ability, it'll always be faster than whatever Pokemon it's copying, unless that Pokemon has a Choice Scarf as well. And we're going to round out the team with a Goldengo. Now its ability is Good as Gold, which is going to prevent it from being statused by any Pokemon, which is incredibly powerful, and it has a Choice Specs item to increase its special attack and just get as much damage out of it as possible. So even though Luffy isn't a Pokemon master, he certainly has a very solid team, and is definitely going to be giving Ash a run for his money. Alright, so there's Luffy's team, but obviously we need two teams to have a battle, so let's go ahead and take a look at Ash's team. One of the best things about Ash Ketchum is also one of the most difficult things when it comes to team building for him, and that's that he's had literally dozens of different Pokemon across his tenure as a Pokemon trainer. So the question does come up as far as what Pokemon team you actually want to give him in a battle. Well, given that he recently won the Pokemon World Championship back in Pokemon Journeys, and given the fact that his team is objectively the strongest that it's ever been, I think the team that we see here was probably the best possible option for him. Now obviously it wouldn't be one of Ash's teams without a Pikachu, and here we see pretty standard moves like Fake Out Thunder and Nuzzle. However, keen eyes will detect that there's also kind of an unusual choice here, and that's going to be Rain Dance. Now we also see that Dragonite has Rain Dance as well, and the reason we want this is to really make Dracovish as powerful as possible. The entire mentality of this team is pretty much just to clear the road and just start unleashing powerful Fishious as quickly as possible. And any Pokemon that doesn't resist water is going to take just a ton of damage from it. Now one major issue for Dracovish is going to be that Lapras on Luffy's team. Not only does it have Water Absorb to completely nullify Fishious Rend, but it also has Freeze Dry, which Dracovish cannot take. So in order to handle that, we have two different fighting Pokemon on the team, Sirfetch'd and Lucario, both of whom are packing Close Combat to try and deal with that Lapras. Now, other than Close Combat, Sirfetch'd has Knockoff to get rid of Held Items, Defog to get rid of Hazards, and First Impression to give it a priority move. Now, its held item is going to be a Citrus Berry, which is going to allow it to recover a lot of HP if it does take a few hits. Lucario has a similar strategy as well, making use of Bulk Up to get a little stronger, and having a priority move in Bullet Punch. Lucario is rocking a Life Orb to try and just do as much damage as possible, especially to Pokemon like that Lapras. We're rounding off its set with Circle Throw, which may seem odd because it does have a low priority, but it does give Lucario an option for switching opposing Pokemon out and bringing them back in over this team's hazards, which are going to be from Gengar in the form of Toxic Spikes. Gengar's one attack is going to be Shadow Ball, which does just a ton of damage given Gengar's very high special attack, and it's going to round the team off with Taunt and Destiny Bond. Taunt, again, is going to be a great way to stop hazards from getting up, but Destiny Bond is going to be a really cool option because Gengar is very fragile. And if it is ever knocked out, it's going to be able to take the attacker down with it. Rounding out the team, we do have Dragonite, who, as we mentioned, does have that Rain Dance and is going to be able to take advantage of that by using a Hurricane that will be 100% accurate. And we have both Leftovers and Roost here to try and really work with its multi-scale ability, really giving it just as much bulk as possible. This team is definitely one of the most powerful that Ash has ever had, and now that he's a world champion, he's looking to add a victory over the captain of the Straw Hats to the next spot on his resume. Alright, so you've seen both teams, you've seen all the moves, and you've seen all the tricks they have at their disposal. Make sure you let me know in the comments who you think is going to win, make sure you guys place all your bets, and let's go ahead and head over to the stadium, because this battle is about to begin. Alright, here we are on our snowy battlefield, and we're going to start things off with Luffy sending out Cobalion, and Ash leading with his Gengar. Gengar starts things off by taunting Cobalion, and oh no! Cobalion went for Stealth Rocks. Unfortunately now it's not going to be able to use any status moves, but it can still attack. And it looks like Ash is taking a page out of Luffy's playbook, because now he's the one setting up hazards, this time having Gengar use Toxic Spikes. But Luffy isn't having any of this. Cobalion used Volt Switch to go ahead and switch out and bring in a brand new Pokemon. And it looks like the choice here is Ditto, who unfortunately gets poisoned. Now this is actually a pretty neat little interaction because Ditto changes into Gengar when it switches in, thanks to its ability Imposter, but that happens after hazards take effect. So even though Ditto is changing into a poison-type Pokemon, it still gets poisoned before it becomes a Gengar, and even worse, those Toxic Spikes are still on the field. Alright, now Ditto is going to be faster here thanks to its Choice Scarf, and we see that it goes for a Shadow Ball, and it takes the other Gengar out! Gengar really is an amazing Pokemon, but it does have that one major issue. Even though it's really strong, it's definitely a glass cannon. Back on the battlefield, it looks like it's time for Pikachu as Ash sends in his favorite electric buddy. Now remember how Gengar is really fragile? Well, he wants none of this, and he switches out to bring in Goldengo. And Ash, being the Pokemon master that he is, has Pikachu use Rain Dance on this free turn to set the weather. Pikachu goes for Thunder, which connects, and Goldengo gets paralyzed. This is something we really don't see all that often, because Goldengo's ability is Good as Gold, which prevents other Pokemon from statusing it. But it is still vulnerable to those extra effects from attacks. And here, that 30% chance of paralyzing from Thunder is going to be devastating for Goldengo. And even worse, Goldengo is fully paralyzed for the turn, meaning it can do no damage. Ditto comes back in for Luffy, and this time it's going to become a Pikachu, which is able to absorb that Thunder attack from Ash's Pikachu thanks to its Lightning Rod ability. This is also going to give it a boost to its special attack, making it even more threatening. And we wrap up the turn with Ditto taking its poison damage from back when it was a Gengar. Now we have a bit of a stalemate here because these Pikachus can't really damage each other thanks to them both having Lightning Rod. So it's going to be a battle of which trainer flinches first. It looks like Ash is going to be the first to break because he switches Pikachu out for Lucario, and Ditto goes for a Nuzzle, paralyzing it and making it much slower. Now, even though Lucario is paralyzed, it's still pretty scary, so Luffy is going to switch out his Ditto for Ho-Oh. But we see that it didn't matter too much because Lucario is fully paralyzed this turn. Something even worse for Ash is the fact that Rain is also expired. This means that Ho-Oh's fire attacks are going to be much stronger than they were before. Lucario decides to get the heck out of Dodge, and in comes Dragonite. It easily takes a Sacred Fire from Ho-Oh, but it does get burned in the process. Fortunately, it's a special attacker, so it's not going to get a damage reduction, but it is still going to lose HP every turn. Now we see that Luffy and Ash are kind of working on some strategies here, because Dragonite uses Rain Dance to reset the rain, but Ho-Oh whirlwinds it right away and brings back out Lucario. Ho-Oh goes for a Sacred Fire into Lucario, and it deals massive damage to it, even in the rain. But don't count Lucario out yet. It goes for a Circle Throw, which doesn't do much damage, but does switch Ho-Oh out, and brings in Goldengo. Heck, it's a solid plan. If you can't deal with something now, get rid of it and just kind of figure out a plan for it later. Lucario gets switched out for Pikachu, while our treasure Pokemon Goldengo is fully paralyzed yet again. This is some great news for Ash because any attack from that Goldengo would have done a ton of damage to Pikachu. But Ash decides that the best defense is a good offense, and Pikachu uses Thunder on Goldengo, knocking it out. We're down to 5 Pokemon versus 5 Pokemon, and Luffy's going to send in Cobalion. Fighting Pokemon gotta fight, and Cobalion goes first and does a ton of damage to Pikachu with close combat. But Pikachu fires right back with a Nuzzle. And it's at this point that Pikachu decides to literally take one for the team, as it uses Rain Dance to get the rain going just one more time before it goes down to another close combat. Even though his partner Pokemon is knocked out, Ash certainly isn't, and he sends in his Dragonite. Ditto comes back in for Luffy, getting to be its third Pokemon of the battle, lucky him, but a fully accurate Hurricane from Dragonite is able to knock it all the way down to 0. After mourning his morphing friend, Luffy sends in Solgaleo, which fortunately is able to actually take a Hurricane thanks to its steel typing, and it goes for a Future Sight, possibly looking to do some switching shenanigans in the future here. Dragonite uses Focus Blast to try and do some good neutral damage to Solgaleo, but it simply teleports away, replacing itself with Lapras. Now keep in mind, Lapras did get poisoned when it switched in there, but it's still a very bulky Pokemon and can be a huge problem for Ash's team. But Luffy must be wearing some plot armor because Dragonite goes for a Focus Blast and it misses! And this opens the door for Lapras to get off an attack, and it knocks out Dragonite with that 4x super effective Freeze Dry. Now we're down to 4-3 in the match, and unfortunately for Ash, rain has also stopped and all the Pokemon that have Rain Dance have been knocked out, so we're not going to see the weather change again in this match. Ash's Surfetch decides to finally make an appearance, and Lapras wants no part of that, switching into Ho-Oh instead, and it really easily just tanks that first impression that was coming. Surfetched does manage to knock off Ho-Oh's heavy-duty boots, but in return it gets burned, thanks to Ho-Oh's Will-O-Wisp. Now just like Dragonite, it's going to take damage every single turn, but unfortunately Surfetched is a physical attacker, meaning that the power of its attacks are going to be halved. Surfetched goes for another knockoff on Ho-Oh, and gets some pretty good damage in before taking a Sacred Fire from it. Fortunately though, it has that Citrus Berry for its held item and manages to recover a good amount of HP. It looks like Ash thinks Surfetch has had enough, and he swaps it out for Dracovish, who can easily take that next Sacred Fire from Ho-Oh. Now on the following turn, Ho-Oh decides to protect to try and figure out what move Dracovish is using here, and it does indeed go for its Vicious Rend. However, since it does have a Choice Scarf, it's going to be locked into using that move until it switches out. And switching is exactly what happens, because Ash recalls Dracovish and sends in Lucario, and Luffy sends Ho-Oh back to the bench in exchange for Lapras. Ho-Oh comes right back in and eats a Bullet Punch from Lucario, which only does a sliver of damage considering it's resisted. But on the following turn, Lucario goes right back out, and Dracovish comes right back in. Now normally it should have no problem taking a Sacred Fire from Ho-Oh since it's quad resisted, but unfortunately Hax caught up with it, and Dracovish gets burned. And again, because Dracovish is a physical Pokemon, this will drastically reduce the power of its Vicious Rends. Now ironically enough, even a weakened Vicious Rend is going to be pretty bad times for Ho-Oh, so again it leaves and Lapras comes right back in. Dracovish does go for its signature move, but unfortunately all it does is give some HP to Lapras, thanks to its awesome Water Absorb ability. Without any other real options, Dracovish tags out again for Lucario, and we see that Lapras opts for a more pacifist option and goes to sleep using Rest. This will put it back to 100% HP, and get rid of that pesky poison that's been bothering it for a lot of the match. With Lucario paralyzed, Lapras now outspeeds it, and it goes for Sleep Talk, which lets it use the move while it's asleep. And fortunately, the move that it randomly gets is Freeze Dry, which is more than powerful enough to take Lucario out. Surfetch returns to the battlefield hoping to avenge his friends, and does hit Lapras for a good amount of damage with a close combat, but thanks to Lapras having Rocky Helmet, plus Surfetch getting those stat drops from the move, Lapras is easily able to take out the Surfetch with another Freeze Dry. And in comes Ash's final Pokemon, Dracovish. And unfortunately for Ash, Freeze Dry is not only 4x super effective due to it being super effective against Water and Dragon, but it also has Stab from Lapras, meaning that Dracovish is knocked out, and the winner of this anime showdown is Monkey D. Luffy from One Piece. Alright everybody, let's give one last round of applause for Monkey D. Luffy for winning his contest against Ash. That was a really awesome battle, and we can't wait to bring you some more. Now I know we just wrapped up our very first battle here for this series, but I did want to give you a little preview of what's coming next. I hope you're as hyped up about that sci-fi battle as I am. So that being said, everybody, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please make sure that you absolutely Giga Impact that like button in the face, and of course consider subscribing to the channel because again, it really does help us out, and it lets us continue to bring you content just like this. And by the way, let me know down in the comments which characters you want to see facing off next. And if we can make it happen, you may just see that battle coming up on the channel. So with that being said, everybody, I've been Blaine for Bridge 4 Battles. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching our fight here today. And until next time, I'll see you in the next video. See you around. Bye-bye.